Harder, better, faster, stronger. Some French people once said this and everybody agreed. But is better always better? Is harder always harder? And so on. Can you gain one attribute without losing another? Can karma be defied? I don't think so. I promised myself that these rant videos had to stop. However, looking back at my first rant ever, I was made aware of two things. Firstly, the quality of the video sucked. And secondly, the idea that getting better at Counter-Strike made it less fun to play. Think of some of your favourite games. With The Sims, I can forget about a job, raiding bins is far more time efficient. With Minecraft, I've mastered the art of building a house on the first day, and then the game becomes too easy and I have to start again. Counter-Strike, I know all the best positions and I hate those who don't. Now I know of these exploits and shortcuts, it's impossible to go back to playing the game as a noob again. It fills me with pain even trying to do it. It's as if the game is broken. There's no sense of urgency, and I know the easy way is always there if the path I'm following should try and trip me up. So yeah, with my first rant video, I'd reached the conclusion that better equals more competitive equals less fun. But what if we remove the middle part? Oh wow, it still makes sense. Sort of. I'm not denying that competitiveness increases as your skill level does. As you have more skill, you have more to lose from being defeated. You become protective. You become elitist. I'm sure I've covered all this in my creativity rant. But what if you lose the enjoyment that set you off on your journey in the first place? So what weird transformation takes place as you reach mastery of your chosen subject? I guess that you begin to link skills together in more and more ways until you're freely jumping between them. To an outsider, these leaps may appear mysterious and random until you reveal the masterpiece that comes out from the sum of its parts. Kind of like the plot lines of Breaking Bad. So what's the problem with this? Unlike a popular TV series which can be interpreted on different levels, your ideas may begin to alienate you from others in your field and scare those outside of it even further. Even if you are respected, you can still feel alone if they respect you for respect's sake and don't actually understand the deeper meaning of what you're doing. That being said, there are some people who blatantly try to be as obscure and strange as possible and disguise it as being deep. Yes, Ellsworth Kelly, that's a beautiful thing you've just made. I can definitely see how it represents New York with the Broadway receding into the distance, and I love how it looks 3D yet flat at the same time. I don't know how you do this without sacrificing the effects of space. This is definitely worth millions of pounds. He's clearly super... Oh, I can't do this anymore. Oh, what's this? An unknown person doing the same thing? Go away, you have no skill. There may be things you did when you first learned the subject that you were then rightly taught not to use, since in most cases it's bad. However, as you master it, you may start using those things again, but with enough skill to avoid the potholes associated with the tool. The annoying thing is that somebody in the middling stages may see you using it and criticise you, and since most people are at that level or below, they'll side against you and assume that you don't have a clue what you're doing. Once you get a bad reputation, it's then impossible to shake unless you secretly release it under another username. Of course, the reverse is also true, as dear Ellsworth Kelly earlier pointed out, where he's most likely a noob who's mistaken for a pro. Or maybe I'm just not good enough to see the brilliance in his works. It's so confusing! I'm going to cover my love of juggling in this next part, but for it to mean something, think of something that you can do better than most of those around you. Juggling. I get a huge amount of satisfaction from showing children my balls and what I can do with them, but I know I might as well just be doing the Mills Mess or something else easy. They wouldn't know the difference. There's something very hollow about this realisation. You feel like an alien, you're respected but in the wrong way, and you set it with bemusement from people who care not about your hobbies nor your interests. You need to find people the same skill level as yourself. Not that they'd be impressed with your juggling, they'd rightly assume that I'm showing off if I was to flash my balls in front of them. They might challenge me. Oh, a duel! What does that solve? Whoever wins feels superior, the loser frustrated, bitter, or even worse. Which is why you don't deliberately go around showing off to people. You take up professions to meet like-minded people who have the same interests as you because you get on with them as friends. Take note of this if you're at, or going to, university. Those clubs and societies you join? Yes, they might be for people who are interested in the subject matter, but from my experience it was more about the social side of said clubs. It's about meeting like-minded people. Too bad for me, there wasn't a lonely people who like sitting naked in a darkened room for 18 hours a day taunting others club. Well, actually there were loads, but they weren't aware that the rest of them existed, because they were all alone. In darkened rooms. Naked. Ah, whatever. Back to the topic of being awesome at something. It must be lonely when conversations with people are simply treading the ground that you were discovered years ago. It must be even worse when potential peers with like-minded interests bail on you or leave you for another hobby because their heart wasn't in it. What do you do at that stage? Do you continue to work with people to try and build them up to your level? Or do you go it alone, pushing yourself further in the field? What happens when people don't even realise that you have because you're already above what they can comprehend? Mozart's later pieces designed for plays weren't fully appreciated until after his death when the rest of the world caught up. This guy was awesome in that he died in a duel, and because he was so sure he was going to die that he wrote up all of his mathematical findings the night before, and it took people decades to catch up with some of his scrawled notes. Bobby Fischer, well, what happened to him? He ended up playing forever alone chess against himself since nobody else was a decent challenge, and then he went AFK for 20 years, either gone insane or bored because every other chess player sucked in comparison. Remember the feeling you had when you started out something new, like game design? You could be the best. You could keep it up longer and harder than anybody else could. You'd be able to single-handedly make Half-Life 3, but better. You wouldn't care how long it would take. Well, where's your enthusiasm now, masters? Has the curve of diminishing returns finally caught up with you? Where's your god now? Even more depressingly, perhaps this is true about life itself. You start with unbounded enthusiasm, feeling that you can do anything. Everything is new and you easily overestimate your abilities. You grow older, wiser and more conservative. You begin looking back fondly at the past, where even the grimy parts shine brighter than the predictable samey cycle that you now find yourself stuck in. But there's no turning back now. You can't live your life again. Playing a game through the second time is never as fun. What you gain in experience, you lose in ambition and freshness. I've regularly asked myself what I'd do differently if I could start my life again. Well, I wouldn't have let that girl borrow my favourite toy when I was 7. That was probably my biggest regret. If you become a master of something, you have to accept the responsibility that comes with that power. You have to relive those old, excited feelings through others who are following in your footsteps. To them, what you do is filled with mystery and excitement. You must do the hard work, clearing the way for others just as others did before you. Your successors? Ooh, they will happily consume any breadcrumbs you leave in your wake, gradually catching up with your life achievements before climbing on your old, worn-out shoulders and carving their own path ahead. All you can do is hope that you leave a legacy to be remembered by. What can I say? Ignorance is bliss. And cut.